because the retail participants are very less compared to previous. So because there is creating lot of lack of awareness among the investors, right, exactly, because they are not at all aware of the investment culture or in the equity market, because awareness is very less. So more initiative from the level, or exchange level or the SEBI level, it should be there for a proper education. That is more important, because people have more opportunities. People have a lot of diversified asset class in front of them, but they are not at all very clear how equity markets will benefit them. That's a real thing. So I hope that retail investors will definitely come to this market going further, because every time if you see the history, at the peak time when the census, if you take the history, past history, you can see that at the level of 21,000, when the index was at the level of 21,000 in Sensex, the lot of retail investors came. Even the mutual fund have collected the lot of money at that time. So I hope the investors definitely come going forward.
I'll come back to you, gentlemen, but looking at the kind of trend, how the Modi government is now started initiating certain announcements, though not been materialized in terms of policy announcements, but the two key important things which the finance minister and the government is expected to stress on is Make in India movement, which is a dream project for the Prime Minister Mr. Narendra Modi. Another one is on the taxation sector, which taxation including the service sector, where the earlier governments had an approach of widening the tax net and making it more softened, but this government and the finance minister, the people expect, will have some long-term radical announcements and policy initiatives which can be implemented maybe in the next 5 or 10 years time. If you take a lead from the railway budget which was presented a day before, and looking at the economic survey reports which give a very promising figures in terms of the future of the economy is concerned, a strong figure of 7 to 8% growth rate is what is projected in the economic survey. Almost all the sectors of the economy are expected to come up from a lowered base which happened due to a slow growth rate in the last few years time. But how the finance minister is going to approach the whole budget document as such is something which people are keenly waiting to see, because the railway budget as presented by Mr. Suresh Prabhu shows some kind of a long-term goals and initiating the fundamental economics of the railway division or the railway sector was keenly observed in the railway budget. Whether Mr. Jaitley also is successful in rolling out such a budget without harming the people's interest in terms of tax burdens on the different taxes, including the personal income tax, is definitely a very tightrope walk, as Mr. Pradeep stated. Manoj, do you want to add anything on that in terms of the vision of the budget? What do you expect out of the finance minister?
The vision would be more focusing on infrastructure development, defense, manufacturing. These are the major areas where we are expecting. In India, infrastructure is the area where is not given more importance in the past. Now the major focus is going to be in getting more capital. Infrastructure requirement is basically huge, where capital, as I said, is going to be required more. The model which PPP model, which last budget even the Arun Jaitley was announced, was PPP model, where nothing had happened much. But this year they are going to emphasize more on PPP as well as FDA in infrastructure, which can get more money to the country and more projects can be announced.
Definitely there are red areas for the finance minister to address in the budget as well, because the tax collection in the last year was highly dismal. The question is how the finance minister is going to bridge the gap between the expectation and reality, number one. Whereas there has been a mammoth figure of a target of 45,000 crores from the disinvestment. The finance minister was stretching upon some of the key performing public sector units, and government had around 90% level of hold in the organizations like Neyveli Lignite Corporation or State Bank of Mysore and so on. which is a very critical policy decision, how more the government is going to mobilize money out of the disinvestment process to run the daily routine process of the government running an expenditure. And revenue mobilization, irrespective of the demand for investment in many areas and funding the growth of the economy, there is definitely red areas like how are we going to generate revenue. One area which, as Manoj had rightly stated, PPP model is as well expected by the industry and the corporate in the country, is outlined right in the railway budget as such, to divest railway properties to the private parties to come up with some positively growing initiatives and projects. I hope the finance minister in this budget will definitely address on that area. Apart from the infrastructure level, infrastructure sector, we have key areas like power, which the country needs huge inflow of power production. In terms of, we had a target of 2022 target of a lakh megawatt sector from the renewable energy sector, and 60,000 a sector like solar energy, and we have been expecting around 60,000 megawatt electricity from the wind energy. So all of us are waiting to see whether there will be some more soft policy initiatives and supports for these sectors, which are going to be very vital in terms of development, especially in sectors like Make in India movement, which is a dream project for the finance minister and the prime minister. Looking beyond, Pradeep, looking beyond the traditional sectors and traditional announcements and allocations, what is going to be something unique for the budget from the finance minister this time?
As you said, the power sector, infrastructure, that is engineering and construction, then oil and gas sector, these are all sectors which was lagging for the past few years. Actually, we need a clarity on these sectors, then only the industry can survive. Regarding the power sector, we had a lot of resources for coal, but there is shortage of coal regarding the power sector, and we are forced to import coal. So definitely I think this budget, they are expecting an exemption of the basic customs duty regarding to the coal. And in oil and sector, definitely there is we are in need of a clarity on the oil subsidy sharing formula also.
Okay, oil is one factor I forgot to tell you, because oil sector and the dip in price of the oil in the international market was a big relief for the government. In the last few months, prices have come to the half mark. That has resulted in almost a 1.1 million crores for the 1.1 lakh crores for the government in order to bridge the gap between the expected revenue in terms of taxes and what the government was able to mobilize in these funds. But you can't always expect this luck to happen. Each time, the next year, the finance minister will have to look at a more pragmatic approach towards deriving taxes. Manoj, can't depend on lucks. I clearly mentioned what will be in the tax front the finance minister will be expecting. As the finance minister has come to the parliament, he stood up for the budget presentation. We will go to the live now. We will come back with more details and analysis with more experts and panelists. You just go to the live telecast of the budget speech by the finance minister Arun Jaitley. Audio.